Okay, great. So everyone can see my slide there. So yeah, again, my name is Kaylee. I'm the coordinator for this Climate Smart Victory Garden in Sharon, Ontario. And I just like to recognize as well that the project is on the traditional territory of the Wendat Haudenosaunee. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, and Anishinaabe people. We'd also like to thank the Sharon Hope United Church for donating the land that our project sits on, and providing us with the water that we're able to use to grow our project. And special shout out to Phil, who isn't able to make it here today, but he helps us till the soil every year. He's a member of the church. Great. So my contact information is there if you'd like to reach out to me. Just gonna navigate here. Okay. So first, I'd just like to start by kind of describing how we started. So the Sustainable Development Goals is a series of 17 goals created by the United Nations in 2015. And they're all kind of interconnected. If you haven't heard of them before, I strongly suggest that you go to this link down here and just check it out. It's a really comprehensive kind of blueprint for peace and prosperity for the people and the planet. So the three goals that we kind of identified for our project are two: Sustainable Development Goal number 2, ending hunger, achieving food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Sustainable Development Goal 11, making cities, human settlements more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And number 12, ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns. But as I mentioned, they're all interconnected. So you kind of, if you're able to fix one or work towards one, then you're helping others as well. So what is climate smart agriculture? Because it's kind of a mouthful, the name of our project, Climate Smart. Climate Smart Victory Garden. So climate smart agriculture is a term coined by the United Nations, which goes a step beyond sustainability and incorporates aspects of adaptability and resiliency to changing climates or shock in weather or whatever, natural disasters, those kinds of things. So really being able to adapt and create and use new techniques to improve food security. So let me just check my notes. Climate smart agriculture, it's not like a universal kind of practice that can be applied, but rather it's very locally specific to a given area or project to incorporate that aspect of resiliency and adaptability. So feel free to check that out as well on the FAO website. Now, Climate Smart Victory Gardens. So we'll start a bit with the heritage of what a victory garden is. So a victory garden is based on a strategy developed by the British War Department during the First World War and continued into World War II to encourage citizens to grow their own food, to alleviate hunger, and promote self-sufficiency. So climate smart victory gardens are part of the solution to nourish people and the planet, and combines techniques to address climate change, adaptation, and mitigation techniques as well. Climate smart victory gardens are about planning a sustained approach to food, climate, and resilience, and enabling, adapting, and changing strategies to address multiple issues affecting food and community. So as Joan mentioned before, there are a couple other kind of similar projects. So in addition to this Climate Smart Victory Garden, there's also Climate Smart Victory Garden GTA with a youth leadership focus, and CSVG, we call it that, CSVG for short, Climate Smart Victory Garden, Montreal with an African immigrant focus. And there's also a research and economic development garden in Tanzania. I'm not sure if Joan, you want to speak a bit more to that, to those other projects.
Yeah, now or when I speak?
Feel free to jump in now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the GTA, we're developing it, and Stephanie's on the line. Or on the call. So we're developing that, and I think it's going to be an exciting project as well. We also have one that's sort of happening, and in my presentation I'll talk about. But DR Congo is doing one for economic development for the community. And Tanzania is a research-based project, but it went into implementation as well by having a 6-acre garden farm that included livestock, small livestock, and actually went into employing 2 women and 2 youth full-time. So it's attached to a university. And they're going to use it to replicate it across Tanzania, possibly Africa. And the one in Montreal, Fule is not on the line, but she wants to start one to promote in the city of Montreal, community gardens and climate smart victory gardens.
Thanks for that, Joan. So we'll kind of jump in a bit more into the specifics of our project. So the Climate Smart Victory Garden in Sharon, we have our mission there to promote, support, and inspire climate smart food production. As I mentioned as well, the project started in 2015, and we've so far provided support to more than 25 volunteers through the hands-on learning. Often at the beginning of every season, we're getting volunteers which have no gardening experience whatsoever. So we take that as an opportunity to teach them some of the skills, to become more self-sufficient in food production. So we aim to empower the local community to connect and contribute to agriculture through growing, maintenance, and the preserving of food. We aim to educate the community about healthy habits surrounding food and the environment, and to inspire a sense of connection and community by sharing experiences with the garden. So including community gardening work sessions, educational sessions, and community farming markets. Great. And then I just have some kind of highlights, some photos that I thought are really nice that our volunteers took this year. Just the enthusiasm that we had from Beatrice and Peter Chris this year have been very inspiring for myself as well, just to keep the project going. So yeah. And up next, we have Peter, Chris, and Beatrice, who will be doing a short presentation as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing so they can do that.
You're muted.
Beatrice, you want to?
So, do I share first?
Hold on, I can't hear you. Fix your mic.
No, yeah, sorry, Beatrice, your mic is like up by your ear. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I share first?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's good.
Just a second. I'm just gonna share my screen because it's not sure. Oh, no, I did. Okay, that's working. So can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So these are the pictures of the first day. It's the day that I met Peter Chris, and we were moving the soil to plant the first list of things that we planted. I think these were seeds that we got. Probably Kaylee can say it better than me, but I think we got them as a donation from one of the grants they applied. And these were the things that we planted on the first planting. I wanted to try the Three Sisters, and it was pretty nice because they were really open, like to let us try what we wanted to try. So I did the corn and I think it was squash and beans, the climbing beans, and the radish and arugula was on the third, and then spinach, peas. We planted like we mixed some of these seeds with some of the things we wanted to plant, some things that I had and Peter had, and the garlic that they planted the year before that was already like growing and looking quite nice. And then we started watering. So we made a schedule to water like 3 times a week, but it was really hot. And I think at the end it wasn't enough because some of the things grew and some of them didn't do so well. So I think I was going like 2 times a week, and Peter was still doing classes, so he was still going like once a week. And I think at this time we probably should have done like every day at least for the first week, which is what we decided to do next. So after a couple weeks, we saw that we didn't have much growing at all. We did have like a few cucumber, a few of the squash and the corn. You can see like in the corn in the picture
It
down
was
there,
it was
and
a rough
actually a lot of
because of
yeah
June.
field bindweed,
June was
which is the one.
really June was really weird this year. It was so hot, and I think we planted mid-June.
It was
Really killed us. It was like a July in June, so we planted at like the hottest time, and then we just couldn't get there enough for that. So that was a big learning experience.
yeah, it was, and like if I think if we did it at the beginning, we probably would have had a lot biggest harvest, a bigger harvest. But still, like if you can see, I like this picture with the empty field because actually the garlic is doing fine, and the garlic is so nice to plant because they you just don't need to do anything basically. You just put it there like on fall, and it's gonna come, and it looks nice, and everybody uses it. So yeah, but anyway, we still haven't found out what the field bindweed was. We were like, oh, maybe it's growing something, but it doesn't look like it. And then like in the first week we realized, and the next week we realized, no, it was a lot of weed.
It's a weed. Yeah.
Yeah. But then we decided it was actually a little late in the season, but we wanted to have the experience, and we didn't want to be there and not doing anything, so we decided to try again. And actually this picture I have a worm, some of those kitchen worm bins, and sometimes when I put stuff in, they grow like beans. In this case it was pepper, so I saved it and I had it at home and it grew and I didn't have anywhere to put it. So I asked Kaylee and she said, no, it's okay. And we planted it there. We also planted a few seeds that I think Peter had from another program. They don't need seeds too. I think Peter probably can talk better about that. But anyway, we tried again, and the second time, we started like watering every day for the first week, and it started doing a lot better. And many things grew. I probably should have put a picture of the things growing before I put the pest there, but yeah, it slipped. Anyway, the first after the plant started growing, the first thing that I noticed that was like a learning opportunity was the cucumber beetle. So I went there. I went 1 week, and the cucumber, the squash was growing nicely. And the next, when I came back, a few days later, the cucumber beetles were everywhere. So we would like flip the leaf, and there would be like 20, 30 of them. And I was like, oh my god, this is bad. They're eating all the leaves. And we tried to do some stuff. So we figured out it was cucumber beetles. I tried to use some kaolin clay and actually reduced them a lot. And I also tried to catch them, but then I realized they fly, which was a really nice experience too. Because in the first day they would just jump, and I didn't really see that they like fly away. So not really easy to catch by hand. But they're really slow, and you actually like they when you turn the leaves, they actually jump on the soil, which is why I took this picture. And they like to stay in groups, I think, because they would like go in a leaf that you would find one, you would find like 10 or 15. But like after we did the kaolin clay, it actually reduced a lot, and I would see like one or another after that, but not as bad as in the beginning. And I think the so another big part of the garden was weeding, and you can see the weeds were like really aggressive. The field bindweed, which is the one that was growing on the first slide that we saw, and this one in my hand there, it was like everywhere. It would make mats like under the plants and like climb everything. Actually, I think it suffocates the plants. But like we would clean it. So this is the picture in the bottom is after we would clean it, and the one on the side was before we cleaned it. So it would look really bad, but actually after it would look nice, and we could actually see what was happening in the garden, which was when I found out this buddy, the squash vine borer. So after doing a cleaning around the corn and the squash, I saw that it was like smushy and some leaves were dying. So I decided to push one of the leaves that were dying, and I actually found it. And I was, oh no. So it was a great experience too, because I think like now after seeing that, I would like recognize it anywhere, and I wouldn't have to push it because it's really typical. They like make this hole, and the smushy come out. And if you like don't treat them before, like when there's still eggs, or right in the beginning, and you take the larva out, so you just like lose your plant. So in this picture, which was like a week before, the squash was doing fine, and then this is the same squash, and it was gone. So we actually lost our all our squash to the to the squash vine borer. But I mean, I don't think it will get me again. So I think it was a really nice experience and a really nice learning. This picture of the adult one, it's not like I didn't take it in the garden. It was I got it on the internet, but it's nice because like I don't think I would forget this little red buddy. But anyway, and this was our harvest. So we got actually it's funny because the beet for a long time we thought it was
Swiss
if you see
chard.
the list here, it was supposed to be Swiss chard, and then after we actually planted broccoli, but what grew there was actually a beetle, a beet.
Beet.
Sorry, not a beetle. Yeah. So actually, the beets there were like 3 or 4 beets, and they grew really big, and we didn't plant them there, so they're like magical beet, magical
Maybe
surprise
they
beet.
were from maybe they
Yeah,
were from last year.
probably from
That's
last
what I
year.
was
Yeah.
thinking.
So we were just like waiting for them to become something else, and in the end, it was a nice surprise. And this is the beautiful garlic from like I think it was like right before we took it or a week before, so it was like big and luscious, and it turned out great. These are some of the radishes, and the radishes were like really nice because they would grow first and be ready first, and it would really raise the morale after all the bugs. And the peppers, which actually grew, we also had a few problems with the insects in the peppers, but it was growing like nicely, and it didn't have like many problems. The corn actually we didn't get because of the earwigs. So after the squash farm bar, some earwigs started like laying eggs, and they apparently they're nice for the garden, except for corn because they eat the beetles. But in the case of corn, they like to lay eggs and eat the corn. So, and we actually got a lot of green beans, and I love this picture because the green bean is like nice and tight with the corn there, which is a great example of the way the three sisters work. And that's it. And
Yeah.
I got the nutritional value for the things that we grew. And it's also like, I think it's also John is always talking about the how we should emphasize the nutritional value of the stuff that we grow in the garden. And I think it's also very nice that we remember it, because it's so nice. Like, you plant that, and they have so many vitamins and proteins too. So for the garlic, it's a B6 and C and B1. It's like a lot. And actually, the pepper, I was so surprised, because the pepper is like 140% of vitamin C, like in 100 grams of pepper. But then the potatoes is a favorite for me, because they're so easy, and it actually like fills a plate. Uh, uh, and they're grown a lot in Canada. So I think if you like to exchange your potatoes from the ones grown with pesticides to the natural ones and grow them at home, it's a nice option too. And they're rich in vitamin C and potassium and protein and fiber. And there are so many kinds of different potatoes with different kinds of carbohydrate, like this sweet potato, for example. And yeah, the bell pepper, which is like has a lot of vitamin C and like a lot of mixed vitamins. And onion, also vitamin C and B6. So when you see these pictures, you see like how rich they are in terms of nutrition. And the green beans also, vitamin K, A, and C, and vitamin A and carrots, and K and B6, and a lot of minerals. And actually, like I think the better your soil, the better the nutrition that this element, this vegetables you're growing are gonna give you. And yeah, this is the radish, a lot of vitamin C too, and folate.
And this
And
goes back to like sorry to interrupt you, Beatrice.
no problem.
It just goes back to that self-sufficiency, right? Like being able to grow all of the nutrients that you need to live and be healthy. And you can do it in a small space. You know, you don't need to have a whole farm to be able to do that. And I think that's what's so neat about small scale gardening or climate smart gardening.
Yeah, you have like all the time you spend outside and seeing things growing, and you end up with a different kind of vitamin capsule.
That's
So
right.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I also just want to point out that so I live in Thunder Bay normally for work. So Beatrice and Peter Chris, just like they're all-star volunteers, doing everything remotely. Like I try and make myself as accessible as possible, but they're really doing all the heavy lifting. And they're both so willing to solve problems and curious about gardening, and it's made this year really great. So like kudos to both of you for really sticking with it and not getting too discouraged by the bugs, and learning from those experiences. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to kind of what we have planned though for the future now, or what we have planned for next year, at least something. So yeah, we learned quite a bit this year, and yeah, especially with the watering and weed maintaining, which is always tough. You just need more hands on deck to kind of deal with that when you go to a bigger garden. But what we found out was kind of like a lot of the hard that kind of lasted and beat out all these beetles and everything that we had. Our kind of plan for next year is kind of sticking with the hardy, like arugula, potatoes, probably putting some kale in there, stuff that can kind of weather the different crazy weather that we've been having a lot these summers. And then we have been fortunate to get a grant from the church to help us out with hopefully getting barrels involved there with the watering, and a shed, and kind of just progressing the garden to make it a little bit more efficient. Because yeah, once you get bigger from a backyard garden, everything changes, like the beetles and everything. I haven't dealt with all that stuff before in my backyard, but suddenly it was just always around there. So it was just a big learning process with that this year.
Yeah, so Peter Chris, I think you might be up next on the schedule if you want to share your
Yeah. Just there.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm up here. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about what we can be doing now that kind of the outdoor garden season is over. You can start some stuff indoors already. Spring. So I'm going to speak to microgreens is what it's called. And microgreens are cool. They're very the past couple of years. A lot of restaurants are using microgreens in grocery stores, especially like Whole Foods. There's like a whole section of coming in. They're quite expensive if you actually buy them in grocery stores. And they're very inexpensive to actually make yourself. So a microgreen is just a seedling. So it's just a little baby seedling of whatever you're wanting to grow, arugula or kale, but a ton of them tray. And so I just wanted to show a little video on how it's grown, just so if nobody has seen it, it's kind of just growing your garden, but you're growing a bunch of seeds here. Let me just pop this up here. Okay. There we go. Okay, here's a little hyperlapse video of microgreens growing. Actually, I'll take out the seed. So as you can see there, it's just, this one's just a little tray and there's just water. This is all kale seeds that they put on. And so it's a simple process of just laying down the kale seeds, a little sprinkle of water, a little soil on top, and you're just going to water it every day or so with a little sprinkle. And the process is obviously really fast with this. I think this hyperlapse video is probably going to go to 7 days. But it's not like your regular outdoor gardening where you're putting a couple seeds in. You're laying quite a few seeds on the tray, which is going to give you these lovely little microgreens that are coming out. And as you can see already by day 5, you got some beautiful things sprouting up. And then let's just see where this goes to. I think it goes day 7. And so usually by 7 to 14 days, you can kind of play around with what you want to do with it, or you can start it at day 7 and cut a little bit more to put in your salad. Day 8 or 9 and just keep cutting it away as it grows, or you can kind of cut it all at once. So this is 7 days of growth right here. I've grown mine to like 14 days without any issues. It just grows a little bit higher and a little bit leggy. So microgreens are an amazing superfood here. There's a lot of benefits to growing them. Some of them are microgreens contain more vitamins and antioxidants than mature vegetables. There are some scientific studies confirming that microgreens can contain up to 40 times more nutrients than fully fledged grown plants. They're tiny powerhouses that encapsulate all the benefits of mature plants in a highly concentrated form. And you get all the benefits of a fresh picked organic food without having to travel for it, reduces the burden on our global food supply, and just growing anything is easy and therapeutic. So just the benefits alone are kind of cool that you can grow something in December, January, February that's super nutritious. You have a really controlled atmosphere. You don't have to deal with bugs so much or anything weird like that. And so, yeah, microgreens, sorry, just to kind of talk about it. So you can grow them on a counter with just like if you have a south-facing window, wherever you have the most light in your house, you can let them grow on there. Or I have a grow light, so I have a really controlled atmosphere, and I let my grow lights grow on them, but they grow just as well on a windowsill. And they take, like 7 to 14 days, like I was saying. So just kind of, sorry, oh yeah, my next slide is the instructions. Here you go. So just what you'll need to grow them, really simple. You need good quality seeds. I highly recommend, I use a website called Mum Sprouting Seeds. It's just a Canadian website, and you get a big patch of seeds. So it's very cheap if you're buying bigger patches. You don't want to buy the smaller packs that you usually get at the grocery stores, because that ends up costing quite a bit. So it's good to buy a big amount, say arugula or any type of a seed you like. And then you need a good growing medium, good potting soil or organic potting soil or homemade compost. And you could also use a single growing mat, like I think coconut coir, for anything like that. And then, like I was saying, proper lighting. So either sunlight or UV light for 12 to 16 hours a day. So just like I was saying, you put your soil in, as you saw in the video, seeds, a little sprinkle of water, and then you just kind of check on your tray daily. You might need to mist it a bit, and then you go day, and then within 7 to 10 days, your plants are ready to be eaten. Another thing with microgreens is put them in almost anything you would regular vegetables. Put them on salads. You can put them on, depending on what you've grown, you can put them on steaks, meats, anything they like that. In soups, people like to use them. They're great. Like I do arugula right now, and I like that peppery taste, so I like to mix it in with my salad a lot, and it gives you that extra pepper. But you can grow quite a few different microgreens pretty easily. There's usually not too many issues I find with growing microgreens, other than I would say sprinkle the water on, because I've done it where I've kind of poured the water on top, and that just kind of makes them drop down, and they kind of go bad once they touch the soil. They go like soft. But if you sprinkle it a little bit every day, that keeps them growing nicely. And it's just an easy way to keep the nutrition value high of what you're eating, and also the cost of them really low. And the cool thing with these in the future is, in Toronto, I know there's like factories now in like warehouses where they're doing like, it's kind of called like vertical gardening. So they're doing a bunch of layers of these in the city, providing them to all the markets there. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing as time goes on, because you're getting fresh local vegetables, which is the best part of it. And then teaches you to grow a little bit to get ready for summer too. So that's all the amazing things with microgreens. And
yeah, super space saving, right? Like you can do it really anywhere. You have a small little window. That's awesome. I'm always amazed by the time lapse of plants and how they really seem to like be just, I know they're alive, obviously it's a plant, but it always just amazes me how they like move with the light and all that. Really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say thank you guys for addressing the nutrient value? I know I pound that in all the time, but thank you for
Well, it's such a big part of food, right? Like we have a garden and we grow things, but what's the ultimate goal, right? It's to nourish yourself and to enjoy the harvest. So that's a good segue into, I have a video to share from Chef Mark. So let me just pop that up here. Tab.
So while you're doing that, I just wanted to mention that the Climate Smart Victory Garden is about the local community and what their needs are and their focus. Just to send that home, and that the local volunteers are responding to what their community needs. So,
absolutely, thanks, Joan. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this little video of Chef Mark preparing a meal that was super tasty. I did enjoy some from the harvest from our garden. Let me know if you guys have any issues hearing it. There's no sound yet, but.
Hi, it's Mark, and today I'm going to cook for the Climate Smart Victory Garden, and I'm going to be using the bounty of vegetables that they produced this year. And the main element will be the red potatoes, which I'm going to be making a potato risotto. not your traditional risotto, so I'll use that risotto in quotation marks. We'll be using I'm going to make a corn and pepper salsa on top and a squash puree on the bottom. And for the most part, I'll be using just the vegetables they produced, a couple little supplements that I added to round out the dishes, but that is essentially what I'll be using. And so we're going to get started now. Okay, so now we're going to start actually cooking the potato risotto with the squash puree. So I will start with, when you're doing the risotto, it won't take probably about 15 minutes to do from beginning to end. So what you would do is you'd roast your squash first, get that ready, which I'll show you how to do. I already have the squash in the oven ready to go, but I'll show you the method as to roasting it. Alternatively, you could also boil the squash, but again, you want more flavor. So roasting would add a little more flavor, but again, it's not necessary. Cut it up any way you really want. Small enough that it will roast quickly. Into big chunks. Into a bowl. Cut it all up. Okay. Touch of olive oil. Salt. Always salt. And you'll see I salt it pretty much every stage of cooking. And you can control the salt that way, and then the salt brings out the flavor of every vegetable or protein or whatever you happen to be cooking. In this case, I'm going to use some thyme. You could use rosemary or any other herb that you may have kicking around your house. Again, just marinate it. Throw it in the oven, 350, 375. Today I'm doing 375. I have it in the oven. I'll show it to you before we actually blitz it up in the blender. So I also threw some garlic in there. Again, you can do garlic, you can do garlic, you can do whatever you want. And then, so while that's ready to go, I'll start the risotto. So a fairly hot pan, olive oil, veg oil, again, whatever you want. I'm using olive oil today. We're going to start with some onions. So it's somewhat like a traditional risotto, minus the actual rice. And you want some color. Okay. Now, in goes the potato. I've got some color on the onions. So I'm going to add the potato now at this point. Yeah, so I just diced them up, pea size. To somewhat resemble a risotto. Nice and small. It'll cook fairly quickly this way. And if you wanted to, you could add some white wine. I'm not going to add white wine today, but you're welcome to do that as well. And it's better if you make sure your stock is hot. If you use a cold stock, you're just going to bring the temperature down. It'll take that much longer. Thyme is a good herb. It's again, it's kind of, this is a fall, late summer fall menu, and you want a little, not a strong herb, but thyme is good. Goes very well with potato. And something else I like to add, especially almost any potato dish, is nutmeg. Nutmeg and potatoes go really well together. If you have ground nutmeg, use that. I can use fresh nutmeg today. Nicely golden brown. I threw the garlic in there, so it's roasted. It's all nice and soft, ready to be pureed. Okay. Now, depending on the consistency, I'm going to add a little liquid to it. In this case, I'm just going to use some of the veg stock that I already have up ready. Open it up a little bit. If you have whatever blender you have, make sure you have a little bit of a vent, as if it was too hot, it would just blow the top off. And be careful. Use a rag, okay? Pretty much the consistency I would like. It's going to add a creaminess to the dish. One other step. Now, I decided to add some apples to the dish, and I'll probably add that now. Now, at this point, you could add anything else you want, really. I'm going to add some pine nuts. I think nuts go really well in this. I happen to have pine nuts, so I think I'm going to add some pine nuts. You could add walnuts, whatever you happen to have. You can add that. Again, the apple, I'm going to cut the same size as the potato. The apple goes in there. Last minute. I don't want the apples to break down too much. I want a little bit of a crunch in there. See it? It's starting to get all creamy like a risotto. See how the potato starches are broken down? Okay. Again, this is without adding any butter or cheese, but you could add that at this stage, and it would be delicious. I provided corn and green peppers this year, and some green onion. So I incorporate that into a little garnish for the dish as well. Corn, I grilled the corn. Okay.
How did you grill it?
I grilled it. I just put a little bit of smoked paprika and salt. Okay. Now, the reason for grilling it and adding the smoked paprika, that's, again, goes back to the other flavor elements. You want something that may be smoky with this dish, right? You could roast it in the oven. You can sort of, you could get the nice, as long as you do it like fairly high, because you do want the color. So you see the color on the corn, you get that nice charred flavor. And I added smoked paprika as well. If you don't have smoked paprika, you can add just paprika. You can add chili powder if you want a little spice to it. Salt, pepper always. Okay. Cut it off like that. Okay. So the corn salsa, it's got the corn, the peppers, the green onions, all from the garden, and I added a little bit of cilantro. As well, I added the olive oil and a little bit of lemon juice. Add a little bit of tartness. Peppers from garden, I added my own little twist, a little bit of jalapenos. You can leave that out. I think the spice works well to balance out the dish. So here we have the final dish. I started with a squash puree on the bottom. I plated the potato risotto on top of that, and then the corn relish. And then the final part was the potato chips, which we used the Harvest red potatoes. We used an air fryer in this case, and they worked out perfect. You can also use a deep fryer or whatever else you have, or just, you don't have to do that. But it does add a nice crunch to the dish. As well, I also made a beet green oil. So the garden supplied us with beet greens, and I didn't know really how to incorporate that. So I made an oil, which was essentially just blanching the beet greens, and you buzz it up with some olive oil or veg oil, whatever you have, and just let it strain. Ideally through a cheesecloth, and that you get rid of everything but the oil. And add just a little color. Doesn't add tons of flavor, but it kind of looks pretty on the plate if you want to be all, again, if you want to be all like chef-y or restaurant-y, you can just do that. It looks nice. And you used everything from the garden, which essentially is what the point of this was for me, is all the elements. And essentially that's what you end up with.
Yeah, so yeah, that was me editing using kind of an old software. So we got some old transitions in there and fun stuff. But yeah, what a nice meal. Peter, Chris, Beatrice, and myself did have some. So really, really great. I did invite Chef Mark. Unfortunately, he was working. I was hoping he'd be able to answer some questions. But yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
That's fantastic that it's vegetables from the garden. You guys must be really proud of yourselves. I mean, wow. And this is where the whole Victory Garden, I mean, I know Bob uses his vegetables too. He likes a lot of soups. But wow. And we tell people that all the time. I said, it's about what you grow. Like, there was a youth that asked me one time, he says, how do I grow a garden? I don't know how to grow. I said, well, if you have a shovel and dirt, just start to dig. And he goes, well, no, that's literally what I told him. And I said, we don't hold hands. We let people learn for themselves, because you will never forget if you learn. If somebody tells you, you're like, well, what do I do next? Well, think it through. Anyway, I'm just going to tell this story quickly. So I did actually tell him that. And he just looked at me like, I told you, sometimes people think of me as a witch with a V. And so he looked at me like that. And I said, go ahead, dig. And he says, well, what do I plant? I said, well, the first thing that you plant is things that you love, the things that you eat. Start with that. And I'm telling you, I don't know if you remember him, Bob, at the Victory Garden, Corey. Yeah. And he knew zero about planting. I thought, oh, how do you start with someone? You just have to let them do it, right? And I swear to you, I think it was 6 weeks later, it could have been 8. I get up to the garden one time and he calls me, he goes, John, I got to tell you something. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, oh God, what happened now? And so, because he never says that to me unless something's happened. And so he says, "You know what I did yesterday?" So this was Monday morning. He says, "You know what I did yesterday?" And I said, "No." He says, "My parents were going like, what should we have for dinner?" And it became such a, like the way they said it, it sounded so horrible. Like, what are we gonna have for dinner? Do you want to order a pizza? Do you want? And he says, "I came up to the garden, like you said, and I picked my vegetables, and then I went and got some chicken, and we barbecued it and had food from the Victory Garden." And he was so super proud that he had started with not knowing anything to actually doing a meal in less than 2 months, and that's the value of a Victory Garden.
Yeah, I feel like you never really forget that first thing that you grow. For me, it was a carrot, and it just seemed so like magical. You put the seed in the ground, you like care for it, and then a couple weeks later, you just have a full-grown, super tasty carrot that's just like the freshest thing you could ever have. Very, very rewarding, and yeah, hopefully we've inspired Peter, Chris, and Beatrice and haven't discouraged them with all the bugs this year. But yeah. So with that, Joan, you have something prepared for us too, eh? I think we're kind of coming to an end here. So
Yeah, I just, yeah, if you don't mind, I just wanted to, can I share my screen just to go through a
please,
PowerPoint
yeah,
very quickly, just so that
absolutely,
you
yeah.
have a sense of who we are. I didn't want to take up the time before. I wanted you guys to tell your story because that's the most important thing to me. So, and to everyone to know what you're doing. So I share screen. No,
Yeah, so at the
is that,
bottom it's present now, and then you have to select the
yeah, but
link.
Mine says your entire screen, a window, or a tab.
Yep, so you can pick tab, window, or screen, and then you have to select
I'll
the
do the
thing.
screen because.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it doesn't come up.
So you select one, and then another window comes up, and then you
No.
select.
But it does. It says share your screen, but then it has your. Oh.
You got to click on the screen and then hit share. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, Joan, you've only done this a million times.
Yeah,
each time it's different. But my screen doesn't come up.
We are looking at your whole screen right now, so we're seeing
So
ourselves.
why can't I see it? Maybe this one?
Yep, we're looking at CSVG Shaka F. I don't know what that.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, just wanted to say that we do have more. I can't see you guys. It's just in my PDF. So sorry. I like to talk to people. So very quickly, the Climate Smart Victory Garden is, like I said, a part of the Foundation for Building Sustainable Communities. We are part of an accredited organization with the UN and are also food heroes as well. And so that's one of the things I want to bring to the communities is to encourage youth to become food heroes. It's a really neat little campaign that the UN has, and I think that especially youth, but anyone. So all of our gardeners, once they learn and become climate smart certified, they will become a food hero as well. So that's a larger part of the certification. So we're a group of we work a lot with different people. Like I mean, from every group, age, intergenerational, religion, gender, whatever. We don't really care as long as you want to dig and plant is what we really care about. So we're very passionate about not just food, but about saving the planet. And everybody has their own passion, actually. And so we don't tell people what to think as long as they want to help and improve things is what we're trying to promote. We actually believe in autonomy. So the Victory Garden, the Climate Smart Victory Garden is actually took the traditional Victory Garden model and combined it with climate smart techniques, technology. And when I say technology, we do work with the biggest and more organization in the world with 450,000 members worldwide for the electrical engineers. We are actually their advisors. So we actually can bring technology to our projects once they need them. So our participation in community is huge, through the UN, through IEEE, through ICANN, which is the Internet Governance policy making body. We are actually participating in those as well to bring connectivity to the world. The whole thing about the world is that we just have to start doing things differently. And so nobody wants to be preached at. So we came up with a model that gives people an opportunity to work at what it is that they're passionate about, what they know, and come together to do that, instead of saying that. We give them guidelines. Of course, there's a framework that we've developed for the victory garden, such as it has to have plant certain foods for the nutritional value. It has to look at least a minimum of 3 sustainable development goals. It's a locally responsive, etc. I'm not going to go through that, but we want to create, again, this is a UN's program called The World We Want, and we participate in that as well, so that we're doing our part in creating a world, not dictating it, but to work with community to do that as well. So the Climate Smart Victory Garden is, like I said, it's a combination of the Victory Garden, which is about civic engagement, growing food, and entrepreneurship. And we've added the innovation of climate smart agricultural techniques, smart technologies, and cultural food heritage, which is also a big focus. And it's all about partnerships and collaborating, because that is the strength of what community is collaboration. And as you can see, that was just demonstrated today. There's a landscape, somebody that's studying landscape, somebody that's a carpenter, somebody that's a cook, somebody that's a coordinator, but they all have common interests and want to make a difference. And they have other things as well, just thought I mentioned those. But that's how community is developed. And the garden at Sharon really, I think, took the time. It took a lot of time to get there, but they took the time to come together and actually implement a program that represents a community. And so this is the framework I talked about earlier. As an EcoSoc accredited organization, FBSCs actually provides input for the Sustainable Development Goals. And so, of course, we work toward achieving those. And those, I talked about our current projects before, but I just want to say very quickly how different our projects are. They follow a framework, but some are doing just donations. The Tanzanian project, it's developed from there, but the first thing that they wanted to do was address blindness in children. And we did that so effectively, because at first they didn't understand how a victory garden could actually help them. And I said, well, this is how. And they're like, oh, okay. So they got a lot of support from the community in addressing an issue that they needed to deal with, not just agriculture. And so some are on economic development, some are youth leadership, women entrepreneur, and carbon farming. And just a couple more pictures. This is where we used to be. We were given a house, but we had to move because of the 407, and which broke our hearts. But anyway, here we are. That's us working with a youth group in youth in policing, and they would spend the whole leadership their time to come and do service. And our last one, some pictures of what we. And this is the very first picture on the left hand side was the first picture of once we did our garden. We had to plant, and it was on 10 acres. I'll stop sharing now. So, did I stop sharing? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's very quick. Just to give you an overview. I didn't, but thanks for the opportunity. I just want to say that it's very, very important that when a climate smart victory garden is implemented, that it is about the local people. It is represents everything, and give the coordinators the autonomy to work with their community to do it, but we also be part of a national or global network.
Yeah, thanks for that, Joan. Always inspiring to hear you speak about your journey and the other projects that are going on. We do have a question here from Rachel. What are the key contributing factors to help blindness in children, and where?
So that was a specific program in Tanzania. They wanted to do a climate smart victory garden, and the government said that the number one priority for that particular city was Duorner. I can never pronounce names, so forgive me. And he says, "Well, I'm a researcher, and so we're going to get research money for that. But I want to do the climate smart victory garden." So he thought he was giving me a problem. Well, he doesn't understand. I never see things as a problem, and so I said, "Oh, why don't we do that? We'll consult the community, get them to, which is what we always do, consult the community, get them to agree on what you want to do, and we'll start to plant vegetables with vitamin C's and D's and A's. And we'll start with that from, because a victory garden is about nutrition." And he goes, "Oh," I said, "So you just start with those vegetables." And then the community says, "Oh, that's wonderful." So it actually then they had more volunteers, and so they started to they got money from the government, because the government was looking at not just how can they increase the nutritional value. So we answered their questions without him actually knowing. That's what they were looking at, is how do we increase nutrition in children. And so they addressed that problem and got monies to do that, their research through the Victory Garden. So he was pretty happy. So it's gone from that, though. They're now an economic development project.
Thanks, Jen. So I'd like to just open the floor now to any questions or comments that people might have. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask away, or type it in the chat.
So if it's okay with you, I don't know who else the other 5 are, but maybe Stephanie, if you could take 30 seconds to just say what we're doing for GTA.
Yeah,
Sorry to put you on the line.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, everybody. I just also wanted to say what I really liked that you pointed out here is that you don't need a huge space to garden or farm, and that you can yield a lot of food, a lot of nutritious food that can complement everything you're doing at home, and also bring that nutrition into the house affordably. So I mean, that's amazing. What we're doing in the GTA initiative is there's so many great initiatives in the Greater Toronto area and in Canada as well. But there's as we said, there's vertical gardening, and there's little garden and farming initiatives and rooftop farming. And so we're making a listing of all of the spaces in the GTA, and planning a curriculum around that, around the seasons as well, and where youth can get involved in a climate smart victory garden as a youth leader with a certification, so that they can be exposed to different spaces, instead of creating a space from the beginning. They can go into spaces that already exist, because there are so many good initiatives, as I said, within the GTA already, that very few people are seeing. Certainly school children are not seeing them. They have no clue, and even community members don't know that they exist. So with these already amazing programs that are going throughout the GTA, we're going to bring children, community members, and youth to those initiatives, so that they can see hands-on what's going on. And 1 week might be bees and honey, and 1 week might be microgreens, and 1 week might be vegetables, and that kind of thing. So kids will be able to kind of curate where they go to visit based on their particular area within the GTA. And it's a shame that some of these places are going unseen, and there's a lot of learning to be had, so that children going forward could start learning food systems processes from seed to table. Good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And that's kind of actually how I got started as well, just seeing all these like amazing projects and trying to bring people together, right, who have a common goal. I think that that's so important, and it's not a competition. Like, we can all kind of help each other out and just build a stronger community through that. So yeah, that's great. We should chat more offline about how we can collaborate together, because I feel like our project is pretty small, and it'd be great to get a little bit more exposure. But we're slowly working on it. It's certainly not one of my biggest strengths. So yeah.
Sure. We'll chat. Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. So if there's not any other questions, if there are, please feel free to ask. Sure. Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, just a comment. Right now I'm doing it in my own backyard, and it's always a learning process. I really agree with what you say on grow what you like, and what works. I cook. My cooking is horrible, but I like it. It's very simple. Go out into the garden with pot, fill pot, cook it. Like, there's no fancy slicing and dicing. It is what it is. And then also sharing is something that you never covered. If anybody's local to Oshawa right now and they like Hungarian parsley, I've got a huge amount of it, and I'm going to put it on Facebook. I did it with rhubarb earlier in the year. I gave out tomatoes at one point during the year. An idea from Joan. This year, for the first time, I'm trying to dry some food. I'm drying peppers. So just a couple inputs there. But yeah, it's always a learning. It's evolving. It tastes good.
Bob probably has cooked more soups than anybody else I know. Because whenever I ask him, "Oh, what are you cooking today?" I'm going to throw this in this, and I said, "Oh, you're making soup again?" Yeah.
To me, it's whichever available, you throw it in the pot, and who cares? And I keep some dried stuff and just throw it in, and away you go.
So he looks like a nice white guy, right? That eats, like he says, doesn't use a lot of seasoning. And whenever he comes over to my house, he eats a lot of our hot peppers. Like, completely confuses me.
Well, I grow the really hot stuff. The ones when you order the seeds from Richter's, they have to read you the safety warning and get you to agree with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so nice when you have like an overabundance of vegetables or a crop, right? And you're like, I have so much of one thing, I don't even know what to do with it. And I think that's another way that you can just kind of connect more with your neighbors, right? People in the area. You can even donate it to food banks. It's a nice problem to have. You're like, I have ridiculous amount of tomatoes. What should I do with all this?
Well, one story on that. I put out the rhubarb, and one lady in her 80s or so, she's no longer driving, had to get a friend to drive her. She contacted me. She has all sorts of health issues. Rhubarb is one of the few things she can like and eat. And she came up to my place. She was so happy to get it. And actually, I stopped advertising it. I told her, keep coming back. It's all yours. And she was freezing it to do her all year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it really was important to her.
It's also an issue about sharing the harvest, but also sharing seeds and knowledge, and all of that is as important as the end product.
Yeah.
So, and Bob, we decided that we're going to plant a pawpaw tree. Have you heard of that tree? No? Well, apparently it has all these nutrients in it. So we've done some research, but on there in Jamaica we call papaya papaws. So when my husband says, "Oh, we're going to plant a papa tree," and I said, "It doesn't grow in Canada," but it was a different tree. So this is, I tell people all the time, I'm an immigrant. We call things differently. You have to learn the Canadian names. And so Bob took it on himself and ordered the seeds, and which was kind of pricey, I think. And he shared them with, like, instead of us buying and him buying. So we share. He gave us some of the seeds. He gave it to Glenn and I. But what the end of that was, he is going to grow them differently his way, and we're going to grow it and then compare which one was the most successful, which was kind of neat too. So that's another thing. You can have fun in your local community when you're growing. You know, how did it grow, and share, not just the produce, the end product.
Mm-hmm. I just want to be respectful of everyone's
Yeah.
Saturday, so I really appreciate everyone for joining us today, and of course Beatrice, Peter, Chris, Joan for contributing, and Mark, who couldn't be here today. But yeah, I'm not sure how many people are left, but if you'd like to volunteer with us, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and hopefully you found this, so hopefully you're able to find my email too. It's just a csvgsharon@gmail.com. So thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Great job, everybody.
Yeah, good. Another successful season. So we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, guys.
And
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm going to
Bye-bye.
save your email. Bye.
Well
Bye.
done. Thanks.
Oh, Victoria, are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Maybe she was trying just to leave. Yeah, I think she was just trying to hang up. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.